all of the works here, there are no barriers. You can walk around and you're very much interacting with the works within a certain space. And as many of us said, a lot of us don't have a tremendous background in contemporary art, and my curiosity was what you think a viewer should come into a show with in terms of getting the most out of these pieces, and do you think you can come in without a background and really get a sense of what it is that these works are doing?
It's also really relative, and it's a question about knowledge and what kind of knowledge one has before going towards work, and also what knowledge the work holds, and also how the work also reveals its knowledge, and those things are different. And purely, I'd like to say that anybody can encounter work with whatever knowledge, and in that sense, works are material, and they are a relationship between the viewer and the piece. And if you have a child who has relatively no knowledge, probably they don't feel so inhibited about looking or interacting in the way. So knowledge actually also works to inhibit. That said, the different levels of knowledge and different kinds of information a work holds are always different. And in that sense, someone like, perhaps if I'd say Carla's work is, as she herself said, is working on a material relationship with the work, which is a very sensual response, but it's also within art history, and her work didn't come out of anything. It comes out of her own relationship to art history, her own relationship to what an artwork can be. And so in that sense, all work contains prior knowledge. At the same time, individual works have perhaps particular or specific knowledge that if one learned more about it, or if you saw work and thought that's interesting, I want to find out more, then you can go and find out more. So in that sense, you don't need to know everything before you see a work. And actually, that moment of not knowing and that moment of being happy not to know is, I think, very important. And the idea that knowing is everything, and that if you know something, you've somehow got the work, that's also a misunderstanding of how work works.
Yeah, I would add that there's a difference, of course, as we all know, between knowledge and intelligence, and they get confused, and the more knowledge people have, the things that they think they don't have knowledge about, which is related to the child anecdote. But we all have different intelligences and that we approach things with. And so the problem is only when people think that they don't have the right knowledge for anything, for them not to have an experience. But if you drop that sort of baggage of what you know about, then you're much more likely to find the world interesting, including individual projects.
In a sense, privileging one kind of way of understanding work straight away. And that can be the problem with encountering artwork. It can actually, in that privileging of a theme or a concept, or it actually stops one from approaching the work in another way. For instance, how often do we, all of us, look for a name or look for a text first, and how dominant is text in a work, and those kind of things really, they really affect how we look and how we understand.
Level, let's say, it will be the first level, then you get prejudice, how do you say, when the reflection level is not the first level, but it will be the first level, then you will get a problem. Thing is, what can be propedeutic, at least I can say this, probably it's the best word before seeing a work. I think the best way to approach it is without without having a certain expectation what what art is as a model for you, what a certain art model. So so you may approach with the maximum of attention and disponibility, and probably after this first approach there will be some questions that arise naturally. Or why is this like that? Why is this? That seems to be seems to grow from the praxis of seeing.
E mi chiedo se un inizio può essere finale. Ecco,
And I'm wondering if beginning can be final.
Ma è vero che quando ho scritto il testo c'era l'idea che qualcosa iniziasse, cioè che davvero qualcosa.
It's true what you said, what you quote in my text, that when I wrote it, I thought, in my mind I had the idea that something new was beginning.
Però che cosa inizia? Io non lo so.
But what is beginning, I don't know.
Ed è per questo che si tratta di un inizio.
And that's why it is a beginning.
L'inizio è qualcosa di cui non si conosce il futuro.
At the beginning you don't know you don't know the future of what's beginning. And the beginning is not definite.
Mentre oggi sembra che tutto sia già previsto, prevedibile nell'arte contemporanea.
Whereas on the other hand, in contemporary art today, it seems like everything is foreseeable.
Già visto o previsto?
It's already been seen or foreseeable in the future.
E questo mi dava l'idea di un'apertura, di una...
But what I was interested in was the idea of an opening, something opening.
Quella che i francesi chiamano ouverture.
L'ouverture for the French.
Nella musica si dice un'ouverture.
In music there's ouverture.
L'ouverture è giustamente qualcosa che poi seguirà una sinfonia, ma non si sa cos'è la sinfonia nell'ouverture.
After the overture you don't know what's going to be there. I mean, that's the opening for something that will happen.
Do you think of it as a purifying process? Do you think that that what's happening now, or what we're seeing as a beginning, is some kind of purifying process that we going in the contemporary art back to the beginning, or like more like exactly as your project is more to essential things?
I think this question can be for for the artists as well. Like, where do you see art going?
Se vedi questa operazione, insomma, questo successo come un processo di purificazione che ti porta a recuperare qualcosa che era all'inizio, oppure qualcosa che sta all'essenza.
No, non è una purificazione.
It's not a purification.
It's not a purification because the beginning is not origin. It's not an recul, come si dice.
It's not a going back.
It's not gold age.
Golden age. It's not a golden age.
And it's not a to correct me if I'm wrong, but it's beginning is not a naive idea. So none of us are sort of naive about also the history of art, and we're very engaged with the history of art in a way, but our work is not it's like, I don't know, if it's something about that it's sincere but not naive or sentimental, and it's smart but not self-satisfied. That it's but that the idea of a beginning is that it's always a beginning. If that a beginning doesn't have to do with innocence, but it is an idea that you are not totally what?
Of a creation.
Di una creazione, l'idea.
Of creating something. And it not necessarily means that that it's the original beginning as is written in text. That's what you. trying to say.
It's not written in the text that it's an original.
No, that, like there are certain parts which deals with a beginning as
Yeah.
as not like in the beginning but in beginning. So you don't understand your working process as a or like, for example, contemporary art and the nowadays, like the situation of contemporary art as something what's some breaking point that people are trying to get back to proper experience, not to or like kind of back to exactly as we see here, with something what touches universally everybody inside, and is not related to any kind of political or social situation. Or
I think it's timeless. It's not back. It's that there's models from there's models throughout the centuries of people tuning into the essentials, right? And it's not that. So it's nice to have those models that we know about, but it's not. Yeah, it isn't this sort of retrospective.
That are identifiable within different works here. But again, that's not quite the same as returning or going back to something. It's more a question of thinking, conversing with what has been said, and adding to the conversation. So in that sense, I like the idea of overture, because it's about the idea of keeping things open, continuing to talk and to remember or recollect, but also to say something. But this obligation of saying something new, or the idea that collectively we might say something of value, is also maybe the wrong kind of weight, or pressure to